Or the objective of this kind of presentation, it is back again how we could get away that Elaphonisus is not a died island during 10 months of the year, how we could get away that in those months they have activity that could be interesting. One idea to have it is if the theater is 250, 300 place space, idea it is why not to have every week a subject. That means to have a week in which it is the week of Sirtaki, the week it is for the Ancienne Commedia, the week it is from the Butterfly, the week it is from the Kedros, the week and the week of Arpa. Every week to find a subject in a way that it will take time, but in the future, our dream is to have in 10 years, the third week of the May, everybody, like the Butterfly, know that is in the ancient theater of Elaphonisus, a Butterfly week. And the same it is, now we go on the next step. We believe that, and we have seen in the newspaper, there is the Prince Albert was in Germany, and it was done together with the foundation of Prince Albert from Monaco, together with a German area, what we call a model of the Monaco time in 1940. Or they copy our idea because we had around 5-6 years ago with my friend Carlo, we said, why not to do something similar? Because Carlo, on top to be a very good sailor, because he can go from Elafoni to Kiter in 24 minutes, just one way, and come back. He went to Antikythera, he went to Plitra, he went around. And in addition, one of his hobby, on top to be a top engineer in a very multinational company, his hobby is to do some model. And I realized that in the beginning he did some model, especially with some train station, not for the kids, but for the adult. And he took some village in this area, and he rebuilt in a model this village in a way that you remember what it was. He said, why not to do it in Elaphonisus? And in this way, he said, where we need to start Elaphonisus? From the church. Can we take it? Vai tu Mognali, è laggiù, è là. L'artista. And we said, what it was Elaphonisus in 1940. It was a picture. He went to see, then he take a picture from Elaphon in 1940, 1945, 1950, 1960, and they saw that how they were the change during this period. Or in other box, we have a small cut of our friend Pauline. She had a small cat, she found it. And here it is, what you have done here, just a second. And then you could come to see, we put over there, you can see what it is, the model that he did it.
Hello? Yeah. Okay, just a quick introduction, because just to understand why this and what's the purpose. 2 years ago, during it was May of 2 years ago, in effect, during the symposium of La Foniso Eco, I presented a small idea, let's say, a small project, just since we were talking about what to do in order to increase the interest on the island, apart from the major things that we have been talking. A small idea came to my mind. I say, why don't we try to develop a scale model of the La Fonisso's village? And people asked me how, and you see? The idea was to try and build, actually, like between 3 and 4 square meters, so not that big, the model of the village as it was looking like in the last century. So we are talking about the 1960s, 1970s, 1950s, depending on the documentation that I can collect, because I cannot do something by fantasy, or, I have to be realistic, try to respect the epoch. So most of the documents that I was able to collect were referring to a period between the late 60s and the late 70s, 80s. So I presented this project and I said, okay, this scale model can be built here in La Foniso and eventually positioned, located or placed in a room or in a place anyway that eventually could be a sort of permanent, exhibition of documents, artifacts and pictures of La Fonissos, just to create a point, have a point where people can go there and look at the history of the island, how, developed over the decades. And, excuse me, but all right. Okay. So the purpose of this the small project was to recreate or capture the lifestyle of the island during last century, and also help to preserve the cultural and historical heritage of the island and the surrounding areas to the benefit of the local residents, tourists, and occasional visitors. And that would fit properly in a place, in a museum, or how you want to call it, where you can see artifacts, documents, pictures of the island. And at that time, I just quickly touched, the execution timing and cost, and say, okay, for the execution, this thing has to be built locally, because it would be harder to make the construction of the scale model and then transport it down there. It would be probably get damaged, it's a sort of delicate thing. The other point is that it takes time. I estimated at least 6 months of working days, considering that here you don't find easily the material, the tools required for the job. So you probably have to bring them from abroad, from Italy or whatever. And the cost would not be much, really, but we did not investigate on the cost at the time. It was just to present the idea. As I said, this was 2 years ago. And here in this picture, I tried to describe which part of the island or the village would be eventually built as a scale model. You can see here that it depends on the period. I marked on this picture, thanks to Google, the effect of the decades. Basically, if we go before the 60s, I believe, there was really no port. So if I decide to build a scale model of the village will have to reflect the actual situation as it was by the time. You will notice also that the big port where the ferry boats arrive did not exist before the 90s. So for sure, the scale model would have to reflect the natural view of the bay as it was. In fact, I have a few pictures to show you about. So this was just to present the how that would look like, Let me see here. Okay. Here you will see a few pictures. Some of them can be hardly allocated in terms of time. You know, I had to trust the people who gave me these pictures. But the pictures on the right apparently has been taken between the late 70s and the 80s. The picture at the very bottom is in one of the restaurants in the island, and the guy told me that is was coming from the late 40s. So you can see that there was just the church and nothing else, just a few houses, no port, nothing. And here you see some other pictures of the second half of last century, so again, 1950s, 60s, 70s, and give you just the idea on, you know, what it was. Actually, this picture, thanks to a friend of mine, was taken in 1986, so relatively, and you can see the island was already similar to what it is today, including the little church. And this is the bay I was talking to you. Here is the bay where the ferry boats arrive. In 1986, there was nothing. There was not even a paved road for Simos. It was just very natural. So you can see how the village changed over time, especially in these last 20, 30 years, okay? And this was the project, okay? People asking me, but how come you intend or do this? Because, as Enrico said, one of my hobbies after I retired is to build a scale model of villages and, you know, environments. And these are just a few pictures of some work that I have done in the last few years, 10 years, I'll say. You see little villages, houses, same scale as the model I was proposing, so 1 to 100. And, you know, fishing person, you know, living there, you know, pescatori, little houses. And again, another example with a road. And this was done, and here are a couple of samples of the sea, a reproduction of the sea. Here is very important because the sea is a major item and we want to reproduce it as naturally as possible. And this is a reproduction that I did, you know, just to give you an idea. This is a little beach. As I said here, we are talking about things that are very, very small. Huh? So this was the presentation at the time. Then, a few months later, Enrico called me and said, Carlo, for next seminar or symposium, that was the one that was taken last year, why don't you do some work, preliminary work, and present something so people can understand better what you have in mind and eventually look at the model. And I said, okay, let me see, because you know, it takes a little bit of time. And I said, okay, what is the most interesting element or component or part of the village? Definitely is the little church, Agios Spiridion Church, which is the symbol of the Elafonissus. So I said, well, if I have to do something, I'm going to do the church. All right? And that's when I started to do the work. The model was ready last year, but unfortunately, I could not come, and Enrico had his own problem, so we missed the opportunity. But this year, finally, we have it. So, just a couple of more pictures. The little church, as a characteristic, has never been modified over the decades. Has been always the same. The only difference are the picture, the painting, maybe remaking the tiles on the top, on the roof, but the church is as it was 100 years ago. So that, you know, that was an easy thing for me to do. And these are some pictures that I have taken over the last 15, 20 years myself to the island, to the church, sorry. You notice that the church at the time was all white. There was no blue repaint, you know, which personally I prefer. Anyway, I took these pictures to work out the model. So these are just pictures of some elements, key elements of the island. You know, the dome, the three-arc bell gable, we call campanile a vela, is the flat thing with the three bells. These are pretty unique characteristic of this island. And okay, some other pictures. And here it is on the next one. Come on. How I do? Because it happened to me already several times. There was no way I could get the official documents of the island with the actual dimensions. And there was no way for me to go up there and measure, the building. So you have to extrapolate the data from pictures. That's a technique that I've been using many times over the years. So that's what I did. I took a few pictures with my smartphone, and I developed the dimensions, which I used to develop the scale model. And thanks to Google, I also took the dimensions of the platform on which the charge is posted, okay? And that's when I started to build hello? Okay. The little charge. As I mentioned previously, I used some plastic material called Forex that can be cut, with precision. And you can see the pictures of the artifacts, going on until, I concluded here. That's the finish. And this is it. That's the actual thing, okay? Just an example of what could be done for the museum in terms of scale model of the village. Thank you.
So when we start this project, okay? Inglese, un inglese. Così, va bene? Così? Va bene, ok. When we started this project, we said where we can put this model, and we didn't find a location. But now, I don't know if you are aware, there is a new school that will be built, will ready in 2025, and inside new school there will be a community hall, municipality hall, area for the parents, area for the kids, and we believe now we are working with Costas Miras, that is in charge as engineer, how we can obtain a place we can put not only the church, but all the village. And when we find the place, Carlo guarantees that, you guarantee? Yeah, okay, good, guarantee that we will do it a complete model of the village, as it was during 1940, 1950, and it is another attraction back again to bring tourists outside middle of July and middle of August. We hope that next year the school will be quite ready. We hope they will present in the next week where it is location. And we hope to have not only the church done, also eventually what are the house along the port in this area. It will take longer, but at least we go ahead. Thanks a lot to Carlo for this presentation.